Hi, it's Mrs. Cox with this week's Design and Technology Challenge. I'm going to share my screen and then we'll see what we're going to do this week. Okay, so this week we're learning all about walls, and that might sound a bit boring, but actually when I started thinking about it, I think walls are really interesting. But I want us to start today's Design and Technology Challenge by thinking about, why do people make things? Have a think. Why does anybody make anything? Okay, I thought of three reasons. I wonder if you can think of any other reasons. So I think the first thing is we make things to be useful. And then sometimes we make things that look nice. And sometimes we make things that aren't particularly useful and maybe don't look that great, but they're fun, they entertain us in some way. So those were my main reasons. Somebody really famous in the last century had a very strong view on this. This is a designer called William Morris, and he was part of the arts and crafts movement at the beginning of the 20th century. And you can see here, he designed these very intricate patterns and designs for fabrics. And he also built beautiful houses with lovely shapes. You can see these gorgeous round windows, beautiful pointy roofs and turrets, just really interesting and beautiful houses. And he said, have nothing in your house that you do not know is useful or think is beautiful. And that always makes me smile a bit, because if your house is anything like mine, you'll have all sorts of junk in your house that isn't that useful and perhaps isn't that beautiful, and you do think, why did I ever buy that? But he was a designer. He thought design was really important, and he said it's either got to be useful or beautiful. And I was thinking about that when I was thinking about walls. So why do people build walls? Have a look at these walls, most of which are mostly but not all in and around Manchester, and think about why people built them. Okay, this one's a long way from Manchester. This is in the far north of Scotland, and it's a lovely place called Skara Brae, which is a really important late Stone Age house. So why did people build those walls? Well, they built them to have a house, to have some shelter. And that's probably the main reason most of the walls you see around when you go on a walk will be houses, because we need something to keep us warm and dry, particularly in the British climate. The next one is, don't know if you recognise it, it's the Roman, it's a reconstruction. It's like they've remade what was there hundreds of years ago, the Roman site in Manchester called Castlefield, and you can go and walk on those walls and play in that area today. And the Romans built a fort to keep people out so they could be very safe in their fort. This wall is the oldest wall in Manchester. It's part of an old bridge called Hanging Ditch, and it's now in the part of the cathedral buildings, the Cathedral Visitors Centre. So they built the bridge to get across a ditch, some like a little stream of water, and then they built it into the walls of a building. These two are from Manchester's, when Manchester was a very wealthy city in the height of the Victorian times. We've got the Midland Hotel, where they've built very complex walls out of terracotta, and red brick. And we've got the town hall where they've used white stone again to build beautiful walls with interesting brick details. And then I couldn't finish introducing some walls for different purposes without talking about my absolute favourites, and these are dry stone walls. And if you get out into the Peak District, which is the countryside quite near Manchester, there are loads of these walls and they don't have anything sticking them together. People just make those walls by putting stones on top of each other so they will stay in place. And our challenge today is to see if you can make a dry stone wall out of things around your house, but we'll look at that later. Some very famous walls. There's Hadrian's Wall, which a great Roman general built roughly between England and Scotland, on the border between the middle of the country and the north of Britain. The Great Wall of China and the Berlin Wall. And sometimes people have built walls just to keep people separate and to make a division between one part of a country and another part of a country. So those are some very famous walls. I want to ask you now, what do you think makes a good wall? What would you be looking for if you were a designer, an architect, and you were designing a wall? What makes a really good wall? I wonder if you came up with the same ideas as me. I thought it needs to be very strong, it needs to be very secure, it needs to be rooted in the ground so that it doesn't fall over. It needs to look right. So there are all sorts of different ways of building a wall. Then you want to think about, is it hard to make? Can I get the materials? And how much does it cost? And then, if you're a builder, you have to think about building a strong wall. And I think most of you at some time, either at home or possibly in school, will have played with Lego. And I wonder if you can look really closely at these two walls and tell me which is the strongest and why. So I'll give you a clue. You're looking at the way the bricks are joined. Okay, if you said the bottom one was strongest, then you're right, because if you look very carefully, the bricks overlap. Here, the bricks are going in a straight line. So all of those pieces would come apart really easily. You'd have that chunk and that chunk and that chunk, and they're not joined together here. But here, every brick overlaps another brick, so you've made quite a strong wall. And here you see a picture of a bricklayer, and he's got his trowel, and we call the glue that holds it together is called mortar. It's a kind of cement. And here's a beautiful wall that's been built. You can see the whitish mortar and the bricks. And there are lots of different patterns of bricks, and I really want you to go out today or as soon as the weather is good enough and have a look and see, can you spot more than one pattern of bricks? So I went and had a look around houses around where I live, and most of them are built like this, and that's quite a strong bond. And normally in a lot of English houses, there'd be two walls like that, and then they'd be joined together with metal ties in between to make it very strong. But there are other bonds that are even stronger, and they're the ones I want you to look out for. So here you can see we've got a line of bricks going along, going lengthways. Let me show you. Okay, a line of bricks going along like that. They're actually called stretchers. That's the name for bricks laid that way. And then on top, you've got a line of bricks that go head on. Let me get another one. So I've got my long brick and 2 bricks that look short. If you look here, long brick and above short bricks on the top. And that makes a really strong bond because the bricks are joined that way and so backwards and forwards and side to side. So that's that bond. And here you can see again, you've got a line of the long going sideways on the stretchers, and then a line of the little ones going the other way, which are the headers. And here you can see how that works. So you've got some going that way and some going that way, and that makes a really strong brick wall. And if you go out and look, I would love it. You'll probably see lots like this, but can you find any that are more like this? And I'll give you a clue. You will find the more different kinds of houses you can see, the more different kinds of brickwork you're likely to see. So old houses probably have very different brickwork to new houses. So go for a nice long walk, look at lots of different houses, and either if you're going out with a grown-up, maybe get them to take photos with their phone, or maybe draw the pattern. Okay, I did want to show you dry stone walls. These are so beautiful. If you're ever in the countryside and you see them, it's really important that you climb over them at the special places, the stiles that are built for you to do that, so that you don't knock stones off the top. But here are a couple of dry stone wallers. This is Jackie. She builds dry stone walls in the Peak District. And this gentleman was, I think, one of the champion dry stone wallers, and you can see him there actually building a wall. And dry stone walls are amazing because they are just bricks put into place with no mortar. So that's a very skilled job. Lots of those to see in the Peak District near Manchester. So I want you to go out and have a look at bricks in your local area. You see here, why are those that way? I wonder if you can work out what's different that means those bricks are standing vertically up and down and not horizontally. Here I found some where they'd use different colours to make patterns. You've got some more vertical ones there. You've got some beautiful arches here. And these ones, they've just put the bricks so they're sticking out to make a pattern. And that looks quite nice. But it also makes it very easy to climb a wall. So if you built a wall to keep people out, you maybe wouldn't put little footholds so that people can climb up. That's just some of the brick patterns I found, and we would love it if you could find at least 2 different brick patterns. So your chilly challenges: firstly, go out for a walk and find some different brick patterns. Secondly, experiment with making your own wall at home. And I'll show you some ideas for doing that easily in the other video. And thirdly, it would be to design a wall or a fence for a purpose and explain why you've designed it the way you've done it. So you might sketch your wall, you might include the brickwork, and you might say, have I designed this to be beautiful, to be interesting, or to keep people out, to keep something in? What's your wall for? We will really look forward to seeing your designs, and we hope you enjoy getting out and about and looking at walls, and we hope you will think that walls are more interesting than you ever realised they were.